Have you ever felt like you're late to your own life? It's a heavy feeling, isn't it? Like somewhere along the way, you missed the train, and now you're standing on the platform, watching everyone else speed ahead while you're left behind. You see people around you reaching milestones, careers, relationships, dreams coming true, while you're still running, breathless, trying to catch up. And no matter how hard you push, the finish line just keeps moving further away. Maybe you've even whispered to yourself, "What's wrong with me? Why am I always a step too late?" It's like time itself has turned its back on you. But what if that's not true? What if everything you've labeled as a delay, a mistake, or a missed opportunity was never a mistake at all? Imagine, just for a moment, that every detour, every slow season, every closed door was actually part of a design so precise that only a universe as intelligent and vast as this one could create it. Imagine that you've been on time all along, not according to the ticking clock on the wall, but according to something deeper, something eternal. I know how hard that can be to believe, especially when life feels like a race, and everyone else seems to be sprinting ahead. I've been there too. I've sat in that quiet frustration, wondering why my path felt so long and winding, while others seemed to glide effortlessly. But here's what I've come to understand. You are not late. You never have been. The timing of your life is not a straight line. It's more like a dance, a rhythm you can't always hear. Sometimes the steps feel clumsy. Sometimes the pauses feel unbearable. But just like music, there's beauty in the spaces between the notes. Think about the seasons. A seed doesn't sprout in winter, no matter how much we wish it would. The soil looks empty, lifeless even. But under the surface, there's a quiet preparation happening, a deep work we can't see. And when spring comes, the seed rises at the exact moment it was meant to. Not a day too soon, not a day too late. Your life works the same way. The winters you've endured weren't wasted. They were necessary. They were shaping you, preparing you, aligning you with something you couldn't see yet. The truth is, what we call being late is often just not being able to see the bigger picture. We stand so close to our own lives that all we notice are the cracks and flaws. But if you could step back, you'd see how each moment was perfectly placed, even the ones that broke your heart. This isn't about forcing yourself to feel grateful for pain or pretending you like the hard seasons. It's about releasing the belief that you've been abandoned by life. It's about softening into trust, the way a river stops fighting the current and finally flows with its natural direction. When you trust, you start to notice something miraculous. The weight of regret begins to lift. The anxiety about the future begins to dissolve. And for the first time, you can breathe. Not because everything has suddenly become perfect, but because you no longer need it to be. So, if you're listening to this and you've been feeling behind, let me tell you, you are not behind. You are not broken. You are not running out of time. You are exactly where you need to be, at exactly the right moment. Every twist, every delay, every step you've taken has been leading you here to this breath, this realization, this invitation to see your life through new eyes. Today, instead of racing forward, what if you paused? What if you allowed yourself to believe, even for a second, that the universe has never made a mistake with you? Because the truth is, you were never late. You were always on time, and you always will be. 1. The story of the seeker, a journey without end. There once was a person who devoted their entire life to finding a sacred place, a place they had only heard about in whispers and stories. It was said to be a land where every wound would finally be healed, where every question would at last receive its answer. From the moment they first heard about this place, something inside of them stirred. It was like a quiet voice calling out from deep within, saying, "There's more than this. Keep searching." So, they packed their belongings, gathered the maps given to them by others, and set out on a journey they believed would lead to ultimate peace. These maps were filled with promises. Follow this path, and you will find what you've been looking for. Trust this teacher, and you will reach the destination. Do this ritual, and you will be whole. The seeker walked tirelessly, their feet carrying them through towering mountains, dark forests, and across rivers that seemed endless. There were moments of breathtaking beauty, sunrises that painted the sky gold, nights where the stars seemed close enough to touch, and in those fleeting moments, they felt hope swell in their chest. Maybe this is it, they thought. Maybe I'm finally getting closer. But as quickly as the hope came, it faded, because no matter how far they traveled, no matter how many places they reached, there was always this persistent emptiness inside, a quiet ache that no external beauty could fully erase. And so, they kept moving. They told themselves, the next place will be different. The next teacher will know the truth. The next map will lead me home. They would arrive at a village, convinced they had found it, the sacred land they'd been searching for. People there would welcome them, offer teachings, show them practices to heal and grow. And for a time, the seeker would feel a sense of belonging, like they were on the verge of something great. But then, the feeling would fade, and that hollow space inside would whisper again, "This isn't it. Keep going." The seeker grew older, their body marked by years of travel, their hands weathered, their back bent from carrying so many maps and dreams. But the longing inside never stopped pushing them forward. One day, exhausted and worn, they sat by a riverbank and stared at the current moving steadily. Effortlessly, it struck them how different they were from the river. The river didn't force itself to flow, didn't carry maps or plans. It simply moved as it was meant to move, each drop finding its way without needing to know the destination. And there, by the river, the seeker felt something they had never felt before, a strange, quiet stillness. For once, they stopped trying to plan their next step. They stopped blaming themselves for not being there yet. In that silence, they realized something simple, yet profound. Everywhere they had traveled, everything they had done, had always brought them back to the same truth. The sacred land was never a place to be reached. It was a way of seeing, a way of being. The ache they had been trying to fill wasn't calling them to find something outside themselves. It was calling them home to the present moment, to the awareness they carried all along. And for the first time, the seeker wept, not out of sadness, but out of release. They saw how all the years of striving weren't wasted. Every mountain crossed, every forest endured, every river swum had been shaping them, preparing them to finally understand. The maps weren't wrong. The teachers weren't wrong. It was simply that no map could show them the truth they needed to discover within. So, they sat by that river, watching the water flow freely, and felt a deep peace spread through their being. There was nothing left to chase, nothing left to prove. They had arrived not at a destination on a map, but at the quiet, sacred space inside their own heart. And in that moment, the journey they thought would never end finally revealed its purpose. The seeker understood at last. Home was never somewhere out there. Home had been within them all along. 2. The turning point of awareness. Quantum timing. There comes a moment in life when the world as you've always understood it begins to crack open. It doesn't happen with fireworks or dramatic revelations. Often, it begins quietly, like a whisper beneath the noise of your everyday thoughts. For so long, you've probably looked back on your life and labeled things as mistakes, wrong turns, wasted years, missed chances. You've told yourself stories about how you should have known better, done better, been better, and maybe you've carried those stories like heavy stones in your heart, convinced that they define you. But what if those stones were never meant to weigh you down? What if they were markers, each one placed perfectly along your path? guiding you toward a deeper truth you couldn't see at the time. In quantum physics, there's a concept called quantum coherence. It says that particles don't just exist in one form or one place until we look at them. Instead, they exist in multiple states at once, in a kind of dance of infinite possibility. It's only when we observe them, when we bring our awareness to them, that they collapse into a single reality. Life works in the very same way. All the versions of your journey, the successes, the failures, the heartbreaks, the moments of joy are like those particles. They are all there, existing simultaneously, waiting for the exact moment your consciousness is ready to bring them into focus and understand how perfectly they fit together. When you were in the middle of pain, you couldn't see it. When you were lost in confusion, you couldn't see it. And that's okay. Just as a seed buried deep in the soil cannot see the sun, you couldn't see the bigger picture of your own becoming. But that doesn't mean the sun wasn't there. It doesn't mean the seed wasn't growing. It only means the time wasn't right yet for it to rise. Every so-called wrong turn you've taken was not a mistake. It was simply part of a larger design you weren't ready to perceive. The arguments you regret, the jobs that didn't work out, the relationships that ended painfully, they were all threads being woven into a tapestry that only now begins to reveal its pattern. Think of your life like a vast, unfinished painting. Up close, all you might see are messy brushstrokes and clashing colors. You might think, this doesn't make any sense. It's chaos. But if you step back just a few feet, you begin to see how the dark strokes create depth, how the bright strokes bring contrast, and how every detail serves the beauty of the whole. This is quantum timing, the recognition that your life has been moving with an intelligence far greater than your plans, far wiser than your fears. It's not that you've been walking the wrong road. It's that you haven't yet risen high enough in awareness to see how every road was leading you home all along. There's such relief in this realization. You no longer need to fight with your past, trying to rewrite it or erase it. You no longer need to rush into the future, desperate to prove yourself or make up for lost time. Instead, you can stand here, in this moment, and trust that you are exactly where you need to be. When you understand this, even your so-called mistakes transform before your eyes. That job you thought was a failure, it taught you resilience you now rely on. That relationship that broke your heart, it opened you to a deeper kind of love you couldn't have understood otherwise. That season of waiting you once cursed, it was a gestation period, quietly shaping you for what came next. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was ever random. The quantum field of your life has been holding every possibility, every path, every version of you, until you were ready to see how it all fits. And now, as you begin to awaken to this truth, you start to collapse those scattered pieces into a single, coherent reality. You realize you were never lost. You were never behind. You were never broken. You were simply traveling through a mystery that only now is ready to reveal itself to you. And when this understanding dawns on you not as an idea, but as a living truth, you can finally breathe deeply and whisper to yourself, I have never been off the path. I have always been right where I was meant to be. From here, life begins to feel different. You stop rushing. You stop chasing. You begin to trust in the invisible timing that has always been guiding you, like a gentle hand on your back, leading you exactly where you need to go, exactly when you need to arrive. And in that trust, a new kind of freedom is born. 3. Peace appears when you finally stop. There comes a point in every journey when exhaustion becomes too heavy to carry. The seeker, after years of walking and wandering, finally reached that point. Their feet were blistered, their shoulders aching from the weight of maps and dreams. Hope had become thin, almost transparent, like an old piece of fabric, worn from too much use. On one quiet afternoon, with no sign of anything extraordinary on the horizon, the seeker stumbled into an open field. It was an ordinary place, nothing majestic, nothing mystical. The grass was uneven and wild. The flowers were simple and familiar. A small stream moved lazily over a bed of stones. There were no temples here. No shining lights. No sacred signs. And maybe that was why the seeker finally sat down. There was nothing to chase in this field. Nothing to strive for. With a deep, trembling sigh, they allowed themselves to stop. For the first time in a lifetime of searching, they let go of the thought, I must keep moving. You must keep finding. In that stillness, something subtle began to shift. It wasn't the world that changed. The field remained exactly as it was, the same grass, the same flowers, the same stream, but the seeker's relationship to it changed completely. As they sat there, breath slowing, the tight knot of striving inside their chest began to loosen. It felt strange at first, like stepping into a silence they had never known. The silence wasn't empty, though. It was full of presence, full of life. For the first time, they noticed the way sunlight moved across each blade of grass, how the wind carried whispers through the leaves, how even the smallest insect played its part in the great rhythm of existence. And as they saw all of this, they realized something profound. Peace had never been hidden in some far-off place. It had been waiting here all along, quietly present beneath their constant running. The seeker wept, not out of sadness, but out of relief. They saw clearly that the entire journey had not been about reaching a perfect destination. It had been about unlearning the need for perfection itself. All their life, they had believed peace would come when everything outside them was flawless, when they found the perfect teacher, the perfect path, the perfect self. They had been chasing a moving horizon, never realizing that the act of chasing was what kept peace out of reach. But here, in this ordinary field, they saw the truth. Peace doesn't come from controlling the world or fixing every flaw. It comes from releasing the demand that life must look a certain way before you can rest inside it. It was like standing in the middle of a river after years of swimming upstream. The moment they stopped fighting, the current didn't drown them. It held them. It carried them gently, showing them that surrender is not weakness, but the deepest kind of strength. As they sat there, the seeker felt the same world they had once judged as incomplete become a sanctuary. The field hadn't changed. They had changed. Their eyes had softened. Their heart had opened. They realized that enlightenment wasn't about becoming someone new or escaping reality. It was about seeing clearly what had always been true, that the sacred isn't somewhere else. It's here, in this breath, in this moment. This was the real homecoming, the true arrival they had been searching for all along. The seeker stayed in the field. As the day turned to evening, the sky shifted from gold to violet to deep indigo. With each passing moment, they felt lighter, freer. The questions that had haunted them for years were still there, but now they didn't need answers to feel whole. And in that gentle twilight, they finally understood. Peace isn't a place you find at the end of the journey. Peace is what appears when you stop running and allow yourself to simply be. The world doesn't have to change for you to feel complete. Only your way of seeing it needs to shift. That night, the seeker lay down on the earth and closed their eyes. Not as a traveler, desperate for the next destination, but as someone who had discovered that the destination was never out there. It had always been here, in the quiet space inside their own being, patiently waiting for them to stop and listen. For you are not chasing time, you are time. For most of our lives, we've been taught to believe we are racing against the clock. We wake up each morning feeling behind before the day even begins. We measure ourselves by birthdays, deadlines, and milestones, always comparing our journey to some invisible schedule we think everyone else is following. And beneath it all is that constant whisper, you're running out of time. It's a painful belief, one that creates so much anxiety and regret. We rush, we hustle, we plan endlessly, thinking, If we can just get there fast enough, then maybe, just maybe, we'll finally feel safe, fulfilled, or complete. But the truth is, you can never run fast enough to catch up to something that was never ahead of you to begin with. Here's what I've come to understand after years of my own searching. You are not chasing time. You are not even moving through time. You are time. I know. At first, that sounds strange, but stay with me for a moment. Think of the way we experience life. Everything you have ever known, the past you remember, the future you imagine, and the present you are living, all of it unfolds within you. Your awareness is the space in which time appears. Without your awareness, there is no yesterday or tomorrow. There is only this eternal now, constantly reshaping itself into stories we call past and future. When you see this clearly, something beautiful begins to happen. You realize that you've never actually been late, because there is nowhere to be late to. There is only this moment, blooming fresh and new, like a wave rising and falling on the ocean's surface. We spend so much of our lives struggling against this simple truth. We say things like, I should be further along by now. I should have accomplished more. But should is just a word that ties us to an imaginary clock, a clock that doesn't truly exist. It's like running in circles on a track that you built in your own mind. Imagine, instead, that you are not the runner on the track, but the track itself. The path doesn't move. The path doesn't rush or slow down. It simply is, allowing every step to happen exactly where it happens, exactly when it happens. In the same way, you are the stillness in which all experiences rise and fall. You are the space in which life unfolds. When this understanding sinks in, every moment becomes the right moment. Every breath becomes the perfect rhythm of the universe. Think of your breath for a moment. You never rush to take the next inhale. You never force the exhale to come before it's ready. Your body knows how to breathe in its own perfect timing. What if your entire life works the same way? What if every opportunity, every ending, every beginning is as naturally timed as the breath moving in and out of your lungs? When you stop fighting with time, life stops feeling like a race and starts feeling like a dance. Instead of running, you begin to flow. Instead of clinging, you begin to trust, and trust brings a peace that no clock can give you. The old belief, this idea that you are separate from time, always chasing, always behind, begins to dissolve. And in its place, you discover something profoundly liberating. You are the awareness in which time arises, and therefore, you have never been trapped by it. This doesn't mean you stop caring about your goals or your dreams. It simply means you no longer live in a state of panic, afraid that you're missing out or falling behind. You realize that every step of your journey has been precisely timed, like the perfect unfolding of a flower. The petals don't rush to open. They don't compare themselves to other flowers, wondering if they are blooming fast enough. They open when it's their time to open. And in that natural timing, there is a kind of quiet perfection. So, take a breath right now. Feel it move in. Feel it move out. This rhythm is life itself. And you are not separate from it. You were never running out of time. You were never late. You are the timeless presence in which all of life unfolds. When you truly see this, you stop running, and for the first time, you begin to truly live. 5. When you stop chasing, you begin to lead. There's a quiet paradox at the heart of life. The harder you chase after something, the further away it seems to move. It's like running after your own shadow. The faster you run, the more it stays just out of reach. For much of our lives, we're taught to believe that effort alone will save us. We think, if I just try harder, push more, plan better, I'll finally get there. And so we spend years striving to catch up to an ideal version of ourselves, a perfect image of who we think we should be. We measure our worth against this distant standard and exhaust ourselves in the process. But here's what no one tells you: the moment you stop chasing, something extraordinary happens. The very thing you were running after begins to flow toward you. It sounds almost impossible, doesn't it? We've been conditioned to believe that stopping is the same as giving up. But stopping isn't surrendering to failure, it's surrendering to the truth. There's a story I like to tell. Imagine you're standing in a river, fighting against the current with all your strength. You thrash and push and kick, terrified that if you let go, you'll be swept away. But eventually, you grow so tired that you can't fight anymore. In one final moment of exhaustion, you release your grip, and then something miraculous happens. The current doesn't destroy you. It carries you. It takes you exactly where you were meant to go, with far more ease than you could have ever created on your own. That's what happens when you stop chasing. You see, chasing is born out of fear. The fear that life won't give you what you need unless you force it to. But when you stop chasing, you begin to trust that there's an intelligence greater than your plans, greater than your willpower, guiding your every step. This isn't passive resignation. It's active cooperation with the flow of the universe. When you let go of the constant need to control, your actions don't stop. They actually become more powerful. Instead of being scattered by anxiety or desperation, they emerge from a deep inner alignment. You start to act with clarity rather than panic, with wisdom rather than ego. And the strangest thing happens: the world begins to move with you. Opportunities seem to appear at the right time. Relationships form naturally. Ideas come with ease. It feels as though life itself is conspiring to meet you halfway. This is what it means to become a co-creator, rather than a controller. When you're trying to control life, you're swimming upstream, exhausting yourself against a current you can never truly master. When you trust and align, you begin to move with that current, and your journey becomes smoother, even joyful. It's like walking into a crowded dance hall. At first, you're stepping on everyone's toes, trying to lead, trying to force your own rhythm. But then you pause, listen to the music, and allow yourself to be guided. Suddenly, the steps flow effortlessly, and you realize you're not dancing alone. You're part of a larger dance that was happening all along. When you stop chasing, you stop living in the energy of lack. You stop reinforcing the belief that what you desire is always out there, just beyond your reach. Instead, you begin to live in the energy of wholeness. You realize that you're not trying to get to peace, love, or abundance. You're bringing those qualities into every action, every choice, every moment. And here's the real paradox: when you stop desperately reaching debt, you begin to move ahead in ways you never imagined possible. You surpass the version of yourself that was endlessly striving. Because you've shifted from force to flow, your life begins to move not because you're pushing it, but because you've finally stopped standing in your own way. This doesn't mean you'll never face challenges. It doesn't mean you sit back and do nothing. It means that your efforts are no longer driven by fear or control. They are inspired actions, rooted in trust, in harmony with the natural rhythms of existence. So, take a breath. Notice where you've been clinging, where you've been fighting, and ask yourself gently, what if I stopped chasing right now? What if I allowed life to meet me here, in that pause? You may find a quiet truth rising within you. You were never meant to chase life. You were meant to dance with it. And when you dance, you don't just keep up, you begin to lead. 6. Every challenge is a training ground. There was a time when I used to look at my struggles as proof that something was wrong with me or with my life. If the path was hard, I assumed I must have taken a wrong turn somewhere. I would look at other people, seemingly moving forward with ease, and think, why is it so difficult for me? Why does it feel like the universe is working against me? But as the years went on, as I walked through darkness and heartbreak, and those long nights of not knowing what comes next, I began to see things differently. I realized that life was never punishing me. It was training me. You see, the universe doesn't hand us our dreams wrapped in neat, shiny packages. It doesn't drop strength, wisdom, or clarity into our laps. Those qualities are grown, forged through experience, especially through the experiences we'd never choose for ourselves. Think about it like this. A seed can't grow into a strong tree without resistance. It must push against the soil, break through the darkness, underground, and stretch toward the light. That pressure, that resistance, is what allows it to grow tall and unshakable. Without it, the seed would remain just that, a seed, full of potential, but never realized. Our lives are the same. The challenges you face are not signs that you've gone off course. They are the exact conditions you need to become the person you're meant to be. When you lose a job, it might feel like failure, but perhaps it's life clearing space for a role that truly aligns with who you are becoming. When a relationship ends, the heartbreak can feel unbearable. But sometimes, it's the universe gently guiding you away from something that could have limited your growth. Even delays, those seasons, where everything seems to be moving so slowly, can be a form of divine protection, keeping you from rushing into situations you're not yet ready for. I've come to see every difficulty as part of a curriculum for the soul. Just like a teacher designs lessons that challenge the student, life designs challenges to awaken your deepest potential. Some lessons are gentle, like a whisper reminding you to slow down or pay attention. Others are fierce, like a storm that shakes you to your core. But every single one has meaning. There was a point in my life when I faced a series of losses that felt unbearable. One thing after another fell apart. And I remember thinking, why me? Why now? But looking back, I can see how those events shaped me in ways I couldn't have imagined. They stripped away illusions, taught me resilience, and deepened my compassion for others who are struggling. Those experiences didn't destroy me, they built me. Here's the truth I've come to understand. Pain is not proof that you are on the wrong path. Pain is the tool that shapes you into someone who can walk the path with greater strength and clarity. Imagine a sword being forged. It must go through fire and be hammered repeatedly before it's sharp and strong enough to fulfill its purpose. The fire doesn't ruin the sword, it transforms it. In the same way, every obstacle you face is part of your transformation. The very moments that seem to break you are often the ones that are making you whole. And while this doesn't mean you should seek out suffering or pretend to like the hardships, it does mean you can face them with a different kind of courage. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" try asking, "What is this teaching me? How is this shaping me?" That simple shift in perspective can turn despair into empowerment. Sometimes, the lessons are about trust, learning to let go of control, and allow life to unfold at its own pace. Other times, they're about boundaries, courage, or self-worth. But always, they are tailored to the exact growth your soul needs. And here's the most beautiful part: when you begin to see challenges as sacred training, you no longer waste energy resisting them. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of life and start recognizing yourself as a student of life. This doesn't mean the pain disappears, but it becomes purposeful. It's like lifting weights. You still feel the burn, but you know it's making you stronger. So, the next time you find yourself in the middle of a storm, try to pause and remember this: you are not being punished. You are being prepared. Every delay, every heartbreak, every struggle is life's way of saying, there's more to you than you realize. Trust me, I'm shaping you into who you are meant to be. And one day, when you look back, you'll see how even the darkest chapters were essential parts of your becoming. You'll see that the very challenges you once wished away were the stepping stones that carried you home. 7. The ripple effect. Personal change. Collective transformation. There is a quiet, almost invisible power we each carry within us. It's easy to overlook because it doesn't shout or demand attention. but like a single stone dropped into a still pond. This power spreads far beyond what our eyes can see. This is the ripple effect of consciousness. When you begin to live from a place of trust rather than fear, peace rather than panic, something remarkable happens. You don't just transform your own inner world, you create a shift in the world around you. Your energy, your state of being, becomes a silent teacher. I didn't always understand this. There were times in my life when I thought my struggles and healing were private matters, contained only within the boundaries of my own body and mind. I believed that what I felt stayed with me, that no one else could sense the storms I carried inside. But life has a way of showing us how deeply connected we truly are. Have you ever walked into a room and instantly felt the tension in the air, even before a word was spoken? Or met someone whose calm presence seemed to settle your own heart, as if they were a lighthouse guiding you safely to shore? That's the ripple effect at work. It's not magic, and it's not mystical. It's how human beings, and all living things, are wired. Science is beginning to catch up with what ancient wisdom has always known: our consciousness is interconnected. When you shift your inner state, you are sending out waves of influence. Just like ripples moving outward across water, these waves reach other people, often in ways you'll never fully see or understand. Your choice to breathe deeply in a moment of anger, your choice to speak with kindness instead of judgment, your choice to forgive rather than retaliate, these small, quiet decisions send signals into the collective field. Imagine for a moment a single candle in a dark room. That one flame doesn't just light itself, it brings light to everything around it. And if another person enters with their own unlit candle, they can take a spark from yours. Soon, the room is filled with many flames, each one ignited by the first. This is how your personal transformation becomes collective transformation. When you choose peace, you give others permission to believe peace is possible. When you face your fears with courage, you make it easier for someone else to face theirs. And when you live from trust, trust in life, trust in timing, trust in your own worth, you quietly invite others to step into that same frequency. I've seen this happen in the simplest ways. A stranger smiles at you, and your mood lifts just a little. Later, you pass that kindness along to someone else, and they do the same. What began as a single moment of love ripples outward, touching lives you'll never even meet. The same is true for our pain. When we live from fear or anger, that energy spreads too. This is why doing the inner work matters so deeply, not just for you, but for the entire world. Healing yourself isn't selfish. It's one of the greatest gifts you can offer to others. There's a saying, I hold close to my heart. You don't need to save the whole world. You just need to tend to your own corner of it. When you nurture peace within yourself, you're tending to your corner of the world. And that peace doesn't stay contained. It flows outward, naturally, like a river finding its way to the sea. Even in science, this truth is reflected. Studies on the heart's electromagnetic field show that our emotions literally affect the space around us. A single heartbeat sends out waves that can be measured several feet away. If something as simple as your heartbeat can impact the world, imagine what happens when your entire being vibrates with calm, compassion, and love. So, the next time you feel small or powerless, remember this: your presence matters more than you know. Every breath you take in awareness, every act of kindness, every moment you choose trust over fear, it all creates ripples. And those ripples join with others, slowly, steadily reshaping the collective reality we share. You may never see the full impact of your choices. You may never know the lives you've touched, but they are there, moving outward like waves across an infinite ocean. And perhaps, one day, someone standing far away will feel a moment of unexpected peace, not knowing that it began with you, with a single choice, a single breath, A single ripple. 8. Your role in the greater tapestry. There's a moment, often quiet and easily missed, when you begin to realize that your journey was never just about you. For a long time, it's natural to see life through the lens of your own pain, your own desires, your own struggles. When you're hurting, the world can feel small, like it's closing in around you. You focus on survival, on making it through the next day, the next hour, the next breath, and in those moments, it feels like your story is only yours. But with time, as you heal and grow, you start to sense something deeper. You begin to see that every twist and turn of your path has been preparing you for more than just your own growth. Your life, with all its messy chapters, is a thread in a much larger tapestry, one so vast and intricate that you can't yet see its full design. You are not here by accident. Every experience you've had, whether joyful or heartbreaking, has a place in that tapestry. Nothing has been wasted. Not a single moment. Think about it like this. Imagine a giant mosaic made up of countless tiny pieces of glass. If you look at just one piece in isolation, it may seem insignificant or even flawed, too dark, too rough, too oddly shaped. But when you step back and see how it fits with the others, you begin to understand its purpose. Without that exact piece, the whole image wouldn't be complete. You are that piece. Your story is that essential. The pain you've endured, the lessons you've learned, the resilience you've built, all of it equips you to shine a light for someone else who is still walking through their darkness. You might not realize it, but your very existence offers guidance to others. Sometimes, just the way you've survived, the way you've kept going, becomes a silent message of hope for those who are barely hanging on. There's a unique frequency you carry, a way of being that no one else can replicate. And it's not about being perfect or having all the answers. It's about being authentic. When you stand in your truth, even if your voice trembles, you give others permission to do the same. Perhaps there were moments in your past when you felt alone, when you longed for someone to show you the way, and maybe you didn't have that person, or maybe they came too late. Now, you get to be that presence for someone else. You get to be the light you once needed. This is why every challenge you faced matters. The heartbreaks, the delays, the failures, they were never random punishments. They were the training ground for your soul, shaping you into someone who can offer compassion and wisdom to others. If you've ever wondered, why me? Why did I have to go through that? This is part of the answer, because your journey is part of a larger story. And there are people who need exactly what you've lived through. When you help another person, you're not just offering comfort, you're participating in the healing of the whole. Because we are all connected. And when one of us rises, we create space for others to rise too. It's like a symphony. Each instrument has its own unique sound, but only when they play together does the full music emerge. Your role may not always be loud or dramatic. It might be soft, subtle, almost hidden, but without it, the song would be incomplete. This is why your life matters. Not because of what you achieve in the eyes of the world, but because of the love and light you bring to the collective through your presence, the way you show up, the way you listen, the way you care. These are the threads that weave the larger fabric of human awakening. So the next time you feel small, remember this. You are part of something immeasurably vast. Your healing contributes to the healing of others. Your courage opens doors for people you may never meet. Every time you choose compassion over judgment, trust over fear, or truth over silence, you are fulfilling your role in the great unfolding of this universe. And perhaps one day, when you step back and see the whole tapestry, you'll understand that every hardship, every tear, every hard-won victory was never just about you. It was about all of us, woven together, creating something beautiful and whole. Your journey matters because you matter, and no one else can live your part of the story but you. 9. Freedom beyond needing and wanting. There's a quiet truth that most of us spend years overlooking. Our suffering doesn't come from life itself. It comes from the story we tell about how life should be planned. We grow up surrounded by messages that say, "You'll be happy when you achieve the goal, when you have the perfect relationship, when you earn enough money or gain enough respect." We're taught to believe that our peace, our worth, our very identity depend on getting what we want and avoiding what we don't want. And so, we spend our days chasing after the right experiences while running from the wrong ones. We live in a constant tug of war with reality, grasping, clinging, resisting. It's exhausting. I know this because I've lived it. There were times in my life when I was convinced that if I could just arrange everything perfectly, then I'd finally feel safe and whole. But every time I reached one goal, another appeared on the horizon. Every time I solved one problem, a new one took its place. The happiness I thought would last slipped through my fingers like water. It took me years to see the pattern. It wasn't life that was the problem. It was the demand I placed on life, the insistence that it must bend to my will before I could rest in it. When we are caught in the cycle of need and want, we are never truly free. Even when we get what we think we need, fear creeps in. What if I lose it? And when we don't get what we want, anger and despair rise. Why is life against me? It becomes a prison made of our own expectations. The way out isn't in trying harder to control everything. It's in loosening our grip. Imagine holding a fistful of sand. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips away. But when you open your hand, the sand rests there naturally. Life works in the same way. Freedom begins when you pause and allow yourself to stop demanding that the world conform to your preferences. This doesn't mean you stop caring or stop taking action. It means you act from a place of inner steadiness rather than desperation. There's a deep peace that arises when you no longer require life to meet your conditions before you allow yourself to feel whole. You stop living like a beggar at the mercy of circumstances and start living like the creator you've always been. When you release the grip of need, something remarkable happens. You begin to see clearly. You notice beauty in places you once overlooked. You respond to challenges with wisdom instead of reactivity. You connect with others from love rather than fear. In that spaciousness, you stop looking to the outside world for constant validation. You don't need someone else to tell you that you are enough. You don't need the universe to hand you proof of your worthiness. Instead, you become the source of love, wisdom, and peace, not only for yourself, but for everyone around you. It's like a candle in a dark room. When you're stuck in wanting, you move around desperately, searching for someone else's flame to light your way. But when you remember the flame within you, you realize you don't need to search. You can light your own path, and in doing so, you light the way for others too. This is the true essence of freedom, to meet life as it is, without needing it to be different before you allow yourself to be happy. It's a kind of inner sovereignty. You're no longer pushed and pulled by every passing desire or fear. You can engage fully with the world while staying rooted in your own center. And from that center, love flows naturally. Not the kind of love that clings or bargains, but the kind that radiates effortlessly, like sunlight, warming everything it touches. When you are no longer ruled by need and want, you begin to embody the very qualities you once sought outside yourself. You don't just experience peace, you become peace. You don't just receive wisdom, you live as wisdom. And in doing so, you create a space where others can remember their own inner light. So take a deep breath and imagine what it would feel like to release all the grasping, even for a moment. Feel the relief of not having to control everything. Feel the spaciousness of allowing life to be exactly as it is. In that space, you'll find a freedom that no possession, achievement, or relationship can give you. A freedom that comes not from getting what you want, but from realizing you already have everything you need, right here, within you, coming home to yourself in the end. The seeker discovered something far more profound than the sacred land they had spent a lifetime chasing. They realized that home was never a destination, never a place marked on a map, never a future moment waiting to be reached. Home was a state of being, a gentle awareness, resting quietly beneath all the noise and striving. And the truth is, they had been home all along. All the years of searching, all the miles walked, all the tears shed along winding roads, none of it had been in vain. The journey wasn't wasted. It was what allowed them to finally see clearly. The very act of seeking prepared their heart to understand what had been here the whole time, the present moment, rich and whole and alive. You see, you are not so different from the seeker. Perhaps you've been moving through life with the same belief that one day, if you just try hard enough, you'll finally arrive. Maybe you felt the weight of being late, the sting of comparing your timeline to someone else's. Maybe you've been carrying the story that you're not enough, that you're behind, that you've somehow failed to keep up with the pace of the world. But let me tell you, with the voice of someone who has walked through darkness and finally understood, you have never been late. You have never been lost. Every step you've taken, whether slow or rushed, whether through joy or through sorrow, has been part of a larger, perfect design. The detours weren't detours at all. They were the exact path you needed to become who you are today. When you start to see your life this way, the burden of regret begins to fall away. The fear of the future begins to soften. You realize you don't have to fix every moment or control every outcome. Instead, you can simply be here, fully present, allowing life to reveal its beauty in its own perfect timing. There is such freedom in letting go of the old stories, the ones that tell you you're behind, unworthy, or incomplete. Those stories were never true. They were just clouds passing through the vast sky of your awareness. And now, you get to release them. Breathe deeply and feel the truth in this. Right now, in this very moment, you are exactly where you need to be, exactly when you need to be here, exactly as you are meant to be. When you trust this, something extraordinary begins to happen. Not only does your own heart begin to heal, but the world around you shifts as well. Because personal awakening is never just personal, it ripples outward, touching everyone you encounter. Your peace becomes an invitation for others to find their own. Your presence becomes a reminder that they, too, are not behind, not broken, not alone. This is how we heal the collective, one soul at a time, one breath at a time, one quiet act of trust after another. Your healing is a gift to the world. Your awakening is a gift to all of humanity. So, as you walk forward from here, carry this truth like a lantern in your heart. You are not late. You have never been late. Every twist, every turn, every slow and winding step has been leading you home, not to a place outside yourself, but to the spacious, timeless presence within you. Life has never been against you. It has been guiding you, shaping you, loving you into the person you are now. Stand here, in this moment, and let yourself feel it, the quiet rightness of it all. Trust the timing, trust the unfolding, trust that you belong to this very moment, and this moment belongs to you. And as you do, you'll see that you've been home all along. Not behind, not broken, just beautifully, perfectly here, exactly where you're meant to be.